Good morning, dear students of class 12. Welcome to this English online class. We are going to take up today an overview of the lesson The Rattrap by Selma Lagerlöf. Students, the text part of the lesson we have already watched in the 5 videos. Now, before we begin this lesson Rattrap, let us know some brief about the author. Selma Lagerlöf, a Swedish writer whose stories have been translated into many languages. A universal theme runs through all of her works. A belief that the essential goodness in a human being can be awakened through understanding and love. So the power of love and understanding is the universal theme which we see in all of her works. This particular story, The Rattrap, is set amidst the mines of Sweden, which is rich in iron ore, and which figures large in history and legends of the country. The story is somewhat told in the manner of a fairy tale. So the story begins with a rat trap seller, his pathetic state. He is poverty-stricken. The clothes are in rags, tattered, sunken cheeks, and always hunger gleamed in his eyes. He used to make a living by selling rat traps. But the material that he got for making these rat traps were either by begging or thefts. And he could even easily compromise with his principles because selling rat traps did not give him sufficient to make his both ends meet. So he also resorted to begging or petty thefts. Akka, abbreviated form, also known as the rat trap, seller, tramp, vagabond, stranger, peddler. These are the different names which are used in this text, in this lesson, for this rat trap seller. One day during one of his wanderings, selling rat traps, he struck upon a philosophical thought, and it gave him joy, unwanted joy. The entertaining thought was that the whole world is a big rat trap, with all material possessions, lands, seas, cities, villages, but it was offering baits like riches, joys, shelter, food, heat, warmth here, clothing, just as in a rat trap, bait is offered in the form of cheese or some food to lure the rat to fall in the trap. In the same way, world is offering material possessions, different types, and once a man gets trapped in this, that is his end. He got sadistic pleasure seeing others falling in traps and others still waiting to fall into the trap. As far he was concerned, there was nothing for him to fall in the trap. And so he was happy. It gave him sadistic pleasure to see other people falling in traps. Now, one day, during one such plodding, it was late So he decided to ask for night shelter. One day as he was trudging along the road, he caught sight of a little grey cottage, and he knocked at the door to ask for shelter. The old crofter. A crofter is a person who owns a small farm and he makes a living out of it. Not only gave him shelter, but acted as a perfect guest. He treated him like a perfect guest. He became a host. He shared his porridge, tobacco, and played a game of majoles to entertain his honored guest. He was too delighted to have a guest in his house, as he was himself suffering from loneliness. An old man. His wife had died. Children were no more with him. Not only he treated his guests with honor, but also shared his deep confidences and secrets. Usually we share secrets with a person whom we trust. The secret was that he told him that he had saved 30 kroners by selling the cow's milk. Earlier he was working at Ramjo's iron works, but now he made his living by selling milk of a cow. And he also showed him the place where he had kept the 30 kroners. Now, the next morning, when the crofter got up for his work and the peddler accompanied him and he went on his way, midway he returned back and he stole the 30 kroners saved by the old crofter. He was happy at his smartness initially, and instead of taking the main road, he took the way of the forest for the fear of being arrested. So what he had done, he had betrayed the trust that was reposed on him by the crofter. Now, he got lost in the forest. He was exhausted and on the verge of falling down. He realized his big mistake. He had fallen into a trap. He heard the sound of the beating of iron and he reached in that direction asking for shelter. He reached Ramjo's iron works. Now, the blacksmith who was working, he allowed him to stay without looking at him because such sort of person do not deserve any respect. But then the ironmaster, who was on his nightly rounds, seeing the peddler, commented. He mistook him for his old friend Niels Olof, and he was worried. He wanted to know how he had reached such a miserable state. Now, the peddler kept quiet. He thought, if this man, the ironmaster, is mistaking him for his old acquaintance, there is no harm in keeping quiet. Perhaps he would give him a couple of kroners in sympathy. So he kept quiet. But the ironmaster invited him to his house, and then he realized that going up to the manor's house would be throwing himself voluntarily into the lion's den. So he refused the ironmaster's invitation. Now he didn't want to fall into the trap. But the ironmaster was a kind of person who would not accept no for an answer. So he sent his daughter Edla Williamson, who had better powers of persuasion. So after a gap of half an hour, the ironmaster sent his daughter to bring his so-called friend Niels Olof home. She was a humble girl who was very shy. She introduced herself as Edla Williamson. She was sorry to hear about the hard times that he was facing. But then she was intelligent and observant. She noticed that the reason behind his fear could be either he had committed robbery or jailbreak. So her invitation was very genuine. It was not like a command. She said that the peddler was free to leave their house anytime, but she wanted him to stay with the family just for the Christmas. This invitation of Edla, the peddler could not refuse. Now, the next morning, when the peddler presented before the ironmaster, well-baked, groomed, the ironmaster got angry and he said, "You are being dishonest and I will hand you over to the sheriff. You do not look like my friend. You have cheated me." Immediately, the peddler spoke in his defense and started explaining him that the whole world is a big rat trap. If today I am caught in the trap, tomorrow you may be caught. So Ironmaster was amused by this theory and asked him to leave the place immediately. But Edla had her own plea. She tried to convince her father that they had invited him. He has not come on his own, and now he should not be asked to leave. At least this man deserves a fine treatment for a day, that is the Christmas day, Christmas Eve. We should give a chance. We have asked him to come. We have promised him Christmas cheer. Now, the ironmaster said that you preach worse than a parson to his daughter. You preach worse than a priest in the church. But at the same time, he said, I hope you won't have to regret this later. So he let his daughter, Edla, allow the peddler to stay in the house. Now, Edla was a perfect host and the peddler was an honored guest. Edla treated him like an honored guest. He enjoyed the best Christmas feast, dressed, and was allowed to wear the ironmaster's suit as a Christmas gift. He was assured that even if he wanted to come for the next Christmas, he was most welcome. So, this kind treatment was given to him by Edla. Now, then the next morning, after attending the Christmas service, Ironmaster and his daughter were returning back home. They were extremely worried because in the church they came to know that the crofter had been robbed by a man who sold rat traps. So they rushed house, fearing that their goods, expensive wares, would be stolen. But then they came to know that peddler had left and he had taken nothing. In fact, he had left a gift for Edla, which was a rat trap, 3 10-kroners note to be returned to Edla, and a note of thanks for Edla for treating him with love and respect. And he had signed as Captain Von Stay. We'll end here and tomorrow we take up another part of the lesson. Thank you.